Hello and welcome to the Pup Mommy. This is a channel where I share my practical hands-on experience of everything that I've learned in owning, loving, and caring for dogs for close to 35 years. Well, in this video, and I'm hoping it's not going to be overly long, I'm going to be talking about breeders. Because if you have made the decision that the purebred route is the route that you want to follow, you probably are already experiencing trying to find the right, reputable, ethical breeder that is going to sell you a wonderful puppy that's not only well-tempered, but it's healthy and it's a sound genetically as well as physically. And anyone who's been out there in that marketplace knows that all breeders are created equal. Well, in this video, I'm going to take you through the 5 types of breeders that are currently operating in the marketplace. I'm going to tell you about them, something about them. I'm going to give you some of the traits and characteristics and what to expect when working with them. Let's get started. The 5 types of breeders that are out there in the marketplace today are the Westminster style breeder, the hobby breeder, the commercial breeder, the puppy mill breeder, and the backyard breeder. And I want to make very clear here, the hobby breeder is not a backyard breeder. The commercial breeder is not a puppy mill breeder. 5 distinct types. So what separates all of them and how are they different? Now let's start with the Westminster breeder. Now, the Westminster breeder is someone who regularly attends and shows at AKC events and certainly at Westminster. These people are at basically the pinnacle of breeders. They are the cream of the crop. They are the elite breeders. Many of these people have been breeding 30, 40, 50 years. They breed particularly one line of dog. They are known for a particular one line of dog. They are subject matter experts in the breed. They breed for the love of the breed. They breed for the longevity of the breed. They mentor other breeders. They write articles and books about the breed, as well as they are very, very concerned, and health is very paramount with these breeders. They are very selective in who they breed their dogs to. There has to be a long line of pedigree. There has to be full genetic testing. They are looking for very sound, well-balanced dogs and producing well-sound, balanced temperament dogs that meet the breed standard. And if you're familiar with breed standard when it comes to dogs, you'll know that breed standard can be something akin to a Boeing 767 blueprint. It's very, very detailed. Now, with the Westminster breeder, they are also very selective and go through a thorough vetting process when it comes to people who want to buy their puppies. All right, some of these breeders may not sell to you if you have not been referred to them by their network. They may not sell to you if you have no breed experience. They may not sell to you if you have small children. There's any number of criteria that they may have that may cause them to basically tell you that I don't think there's a match here or there are no puppies available. I actually have Boston Terriers that come from a Westminster breeder, and when she does have puppies available, because Westminster breeders don't breed every single year. Many of them don't. And many of them who do have a litter a year, they may have 1 litter, they may have 2 litters. It depends on the number of dogs. Some dogs they will keep for themselves. Other dogs they will make available as companions, or they'll make them available to show homes. But my point being that this particular breeder, my Boston breeder, has a detailed list on her website when she has puppies available. And she basically says very nicely, if you don't meet this criteria, please do not contact me. So that's something to keep in the back of your mind. And also with Westminster breeders, there will be a detailed contract of sale that covers vaccinations, covers spay-neuter, covers a number of things. And that also specifies, too, that in the case that you are no longer able to care for the puppy must come back to them. And also that means for the lifetime of the dog. So whether you have financial hardship or there's death in the family or there's divorce or whatever there may be, the breeder breeder wants to ensure that the puppy is not given to somebody who is not going to love, or the dog is not going to be given to someone who doesn't love them as much as the breeder does. God forbid that a dog should end up in a shelter. So that's usually one of the paramount pieces of the contract with that type of Westminster breeder. The second breeder, very, very close to the Westminster, is the hobby breeder. And the hobby breeder is different because they don't participate in that many AKC events. They're not primarily conformation breeders. Yes, their dogs will meet breed standard. Yes, they can also be experts breeding 30, 40 years. But breeding is not their main job. They have a full-time job, and breeding is a hobby. But it's a very important hobby to them. They love their dogs just as much as the Westminster breeder does. The dogs live inside the home, both for Westminster and for hobby. They don't live in the garage, the basement, the attic. They are considered family members, and they live inside the home. There is a limited number, again, of litters available. And also sometimes sometimes is usually with Westminster and hobby breeders, there's a waiting list. Sometimes that waiting list can be 1 year, 2 years. I've even seen waiting lists of 3 years. So this is, and also when it comes to the price, with these particular breeders and the length of the pedigree, the amount of genetic testing that is done, and the fact that many of these dogs are grand champions, platinum, silver, the price is the price, and the price is not going to be $2,000. The price is going to be in the high fours, and in some cases even the fives. Because not only are you dealing with exclusivity here of a particular line of dogs, you're also dealing with the law of supply and demand. So keep in mind that if you want an Irish Water Spaniel, there's a limited pool of Irish Water Spaniel breeders compared to the number of breeders that are breeding for Labrador Retrievers. All right, so that also factors into it. The next type of breeder that is out there are probably one that many of you come into contact with, and that's the commercial breeder. The commercial breeder differs from the Westminster and hobby in that the commercial breeder has dogs all year round. It has puppies available all year round. Has a larger number of sires and dams that they're breeding because that is what they do. They breed for profit. Does that mean that they have lesser dogs? Not necessarily. I happen to know of a German Shepherd breeder, owner, trainer, handler that I take my Shepherds to for training. All right, this particular couple, they breed West German line pedigree German Shepherds. West German line pedigree Shepherds, stud dogs go for $80,000 to $100,000. So you can see there's quite a significant investment. They're also lengthy pedigree. They have different kind of pedigree also, where they also look at, because a lot of German Shepherds are involved in IPO, Schutzhund, and tracking, agility, and so forth. So there are different types of pedigrees that you should be familiar with. At the same time, with commercial breeders, they also may offer boarding, training, grooming. Some specialize in different types of obedience. This particular breeder that I mentioned, they train for AKC Good Citizen. They also train search and rescue. Then you also have commercial breeders who specialize in particular kinds of dogs in terms of protection dogs and service dogs. Some commercial breeders also breed hunting dogs. So you're not going to find a conformation line. You're going to find the field line or the working line. So again, you have to know what you're looking for, and you have to know what questions to ask. Now, the commercial breeders are also going to be doing genetic testing. Are they going to do the full range of genetic testing? Some do, some don't necessarily do. But they will test for OFA, they will test for CERF. They do offer a warranty and guarantee on their dogs. And also, they will mentor you to a certain extent, but most of them, will answer your questions, especially during the early puppy years, and they may maintain a relationship with you. It all depends on you and the breeder. They are not usually involved in AKC events. They are usually involved in, let's say, breed clubs or breed associations, or events that are specifically tailored to that type of breed of dog. Like I mentioned, IPO Schutzhund for German Shepherds or for Dobermans, and occasionally you see a Rottweiler or Malinois involved in there too. But generally, they're good people. They're solid people. Again, no matter what type of breeder you are, there's always going to be that wacky, that wacky one out there. But you know what? This is the point of this video, that you're going in with eyes wide open. Now, the backyard breeder and the puppy mill breeder are two of the breeders that you need to know about. But again, I highly do not recommend that you deal with them. The backyard breeders are going to be people who breed because they need the money, or they're breeding just to try it. Like my neighbors. One neighbor to the west of me had a male German Shepherd, and another male and another female, and they decided, let's see what we get. Oh, that's really cool. Let's see what we get. They're not going to pay that much attention to conformation. They're not going to pay that much attention to temperament. They're not, because the one on the east side was pretty darn wacky, I must say. So it's kind of what I would call a roulette wheel. You might get a good dog, you might not get a good dog. A lot of these dogs are not going to be tested unless they read on Google that they should test them. These types of backyard breeders don't know what they don't know. All right, and what they do know, again, they get it from Google. Also, a lot of these dogs are not AKC, in terms of AKC registered. They're United Kennel Club registration, which is a different type of organization. They're not going to necessarily give you a contract of sale. They're going to give you a bill of sale. They're not going to mentor you. They're not going to stay with you. They basically are selling you a dog. They're in the business of selling you a dog. And you can find these backyard breeders on Facebook. You can find them on X. You can find them, on Craigslist. You can find them word of mouth, because that's primarily how they market. And then finally, the ones that you really need to be careful about are the puppy mill breeders. Since a number of states kind of passed a law that you can no longer sell dogs in puppy stores, where do the puppy mill breeders go? Well, they go online. And many puppy mill breeders have very nice websites. They're very comfy, they're very cozy. You see the house, you see the puppies playing in the grass, you see the children, the breeders' children playing with the puppies. You find some testimonials, and everything is just wonderful and cozy. Well, with the puppy mill breeder, it's going to be a very large scale operation. And many of them may have very large, we call it a warehouse, or what they used to call it years ago as a Quonset hut. They have a lot of dogs, and they have a lot of disparate breeds of dogs. They may have giant schnauzers, Dogo Argentino, Pembroke Welsh Corgi, Labrador Retriever, Boston Terrier, Quezon. They may have all different kinds of breeds available. And there's no way in God's green earth that kind of breeder could be that adept and knowledgeable about selling those different types of breeds of dogs. Again, they're breeding for profit. They're going to sell you a dog that also, and you have to watch for these breeders, because many of them have breeds that they call the special color. I've seen a breeder with silver lab. Well, according to the Labrador Retriever Club of America, there's yellow, chocolate, and black. Silver is no. And yet people are duped into paying more for a silver lab because they think it's a special dog. The same thing with Boston Terriers. I've seen Boston Terriers, blue Bostons. There's no such thing as a blue Boston. There's brindle, there's black and white, and so forth, and there's seal, but blue, no. But yet, here's a website that I saw, $22.50 for a blue, $18.50 for a black and white. Many of these dogs also will not conform to breed standard. The ears will be off, the muzzle is off, the leg body structure is off, and yet they'll still, demand $1,300, $1,500, $1,800 for this type of dog. Now that also is a little bit of a signal, because purebred puppies, for, again, something from a commercial breeder, definitely a hobby, and definitely a Westminster, are going to be in the thousands. All right. So this is something to keep in the back of your mind when you're starting to deal with these people. Many of them are not going to have a great deal of knowledge regarding the sire and the dam. Very rarely will you see a sire and a dam on a puppy mill website. The pedigree is only maybe a generation, maybe two at the most. Whereas with other dogs from reputable breeders, the pedigree is longer than your arm. Another thing to keep in mind also is that when you establish a relationship and you're coming close to possibly buying from a reputable ethical breeder, very good idea to go and they'll invite you to come to see them, because they love their dogs, they want to show you their dogs, and it's important that you see the parents. And reputable ethical breeders have no problem showing you any documentation, showing you even any of their dogs. In fact, they're rather proud of all of them. So that's another key factor in determining, the different types of breeders. Now, with that, I'm going to end this video. Because again, I said I didn't want it to be too long. If you feel a little overwhelmed, if you feel that this is really a bit more complex than you thought it might be, I can take the overwhelm and complex off of you. And I offer turnkey services that go from determining the breed that's right for you and your family, for your personality, your lifestyle, and that you can safely handle. And then I find the breeder. I help you liaise with that breeder, establish that relationship, find that perfect puppy. I help you also advise you how to set up your home, make it puppy proof, what supplies you're going to need, and even those that you think you don't need, but you need them and then you don't have them. And then, of course, also I will mentor you or stay with you, answer your questions for 3 months after you bring the dog home, so that if you have training problems, you have behavior problems. Remember, I've been through this with gazillion dogs for close to 35 years. Very little I don't know. All right, so with that said, again, I'll leave some links in the description section. I hope you found this valuable and informative and not overly long. And I thank you very much for watching. And don't forget to click and subscribe. And I will say bye for now.